Hello and welcome to another episode of In the Kitchen with Becca. And today is a special day because you all literally requested this video. I am taking on the talented, the delicious, the enigmatic, the cake cereal mogul lady, Christina Tosi. Now you might know her from literally everywhere, but also these two fabulous books. Christina Tosi has an empire based on cakes, pies, ice cream, and everything fun, creative, unique, and nostalgically delicious. So, of course, for fall, her and her team baked up a brand new recipe, the Apple Cider Doughnut Cake. As a lover of fall and everything baked goods, I was ecstatic. My hometown has an apple festival. So yeah, this is near and dear to my heart, just like a little bit. It being a brand new recipe, I was a little bit, intimidated. So a lot of research was done and a lot of confusion was had. I'll show you.
It's fall time. Are y'all ready for some new menu drops? But then comes the apple cider donut moment. Vanilla extract. Then we have some fried donut dough flavor, if you will. A little bit of brown butter to give you those crisp, toasty notes. A little bit of fried flavored sugar, which we'll come back to as well. Instead of sort of this dark brown caramel to give it the right color.
Okay, so that IG video, honestly just left me with a lot more questions than answers. What is fried donut flavor and fried flavored sugar? So I'm just going to search the internet. Okay, she did a video for Rachel Ray. Okay, thank God. Okay. The video is really her building the cake. I still don't know, fried donut flavor. Is it flavoring? What is she? Let's see. She wrote out the recipe, so let's see here.
Donut cake ingredients, we have butter, sugar, light brown sugar, eggs, buttermilk.
1 cup plus a half teaspoon of used fry oil. Okay.
1 teaspoon dark vanilla extract, 1.5 cake flour. Okay, that's all normal.
For the frosting, creme fraiche. And then for assembly donut milk. But didn't she say... a milk that is scented with donuts. So I'm assuming am I gonna have to make donuts too? Because I need used fry oil. And then she's saying that she soaked donuts in milk. My God, I'm gonna have to make donuts too, aren't I? This is gonna take forever. I'm sure it'll be delicious though. Fried donut flavor is probably the oil that they use to make the donuts. Damn it, Christina. Luckily, I already have some light apple cider, so I can use that apple cider I have already made. Shit, I threw that away. I have to make some more apple cider. Never mind, all right? Just everyone never mind. I'm just gonna make everything from scratch. Okay, I have some semblance of a plan. Let's get started, because we have a lot to do. The cake is here. Oh my God. Welcome to recipe research part 2, because this is kind of a doozy. The cake came today, and now I'm realizing I need to make a cake. So here we are again. This recipe is trying my patience a little bit. There are like more than a few things that she mentioned in Instagram, like in her walkthrough, that are not included in the Rachel Ray recipe. I initially thought that she left out these things to pare down the recipe for Rachel Ray, right? Rachel Ray is a huge audience for kind of novice cooks, novice bakers, or people just, you know, casually doing this stuff. And Christina Tosi is like a pastry chef, like a world-renowned pastry chef. She's great, all right? But no, there's still some weird ingredients in here, really weird measurements. And speaking on measurements, it is in cups and teaspoons and not grams and ounces, which really frustrates me because, like, for the frosting, for the donut frosting, she's asking for 5/8 cup of cream cheese. What? Or a tiny pinch of citric acid, followed by a pinch of yogurt powder. Yogurt powder. What the She stressed that, like, the spices were really important, but in the cake, it's just cinnamon. And in the video, she mentioned, like, nutmeg and ginger and stuff like that. And then she also mentioned, like, the fried sugar and the caramel and the browned butter. There's no browned butter in here. So I think what this means is that I'm gonna have to do something crazy. Oh man, I think I'm gonna have to edit the recipe. I think I'm just gonna have to make it my own a little bit. And I think I'm just gonna throw some other stuff in there too, which, I don't know, I might regret this. This might be a bad idea, but I think this is my only shot. I'm making, like, the best cake I can. So I think I'm gonna write my own recipe for this. Obviously, I'm gonna use this as a base, right? Of course, I'm not crazy. I'm just a little crazy. So I took that research and I took my knowledge of making her recipes before and compiled them into my Apple Cider Doughnut Manifesto. I have just scratched out a compilation of advice, measurements, method, and obviously a little madness into my own recipe, just trying to get a handle on everything that was in there. All right, suit up because this is gonna be a lot. We're gonna take our 2 different butters and we're gonna brown them separately because I'm bad at math, so this is how it works for me. Make sure to really scrape your pan to get all that deliciousness. Then we're gonna separate our apple cider because we're gonna use it both in a syrup and in a jam. So first for the syrup, 1.5 cups of cider, 1 cinnamon stick, reduce until thick and syrupy, put to the side to cool. Then for our jam, you're gonna take your cider and your pectin. You should make it to your box instructions. I did not. And so I just went with the Christina Tosi directions. That didn't work out too well. I mean, it worked fine, but please just follow the instructions on your pectin box. My ingredients, though, are down below. Next is the crunchers, and my favorite part of this cake. You're gonna take the cake flour and the apple cider donut sugar. Now this had chunks of like oil and flavor and stuff, and it honestly was worth it. You're also gonna add, what was also worth it was the used oil and with the bits. If you shook it up a lot, you actually got the bits with like the fry and everything like that you typically filter out. But honestly, it smelled like the cider donuts and it made the crunchers actually taste pretty good. So I'm pretty annoyed to admit that it was kind of worth it and it turned out pretty great. Now we have the all-important sponge. I didn't actually have the exact size tin, so I got creative and made one with some aluminum foil and a plate. It worked out just okay. Anyways, we're gonna soften our browned butter and we're gonna start whipping it. Then we're gonna add our sugars and whip that for like 4 or 5 minutes till it's light and fluffy. Then we're gonna add more used fry oil in our buttermilk. Luckily here, the used fry oil, it didn't really provide much of a flavor, so here you can really use any oil. But also I added the syrup here at this stage, and make sure you only incorporate 1 egg at a time so you don't overmix. Look at that beautiful butterscotch color. Oh, I loved it. Anyways, slowly add your dry ingredients so you don't make a total mess. And then you're gonna whip your dough for like 3 or 4 minutes until it is very light and fluffy. Then you're gonna spread it evenly in your makeshift tray that you have also greased. Even it out and bake. My tray went really wobbly for some reason in the oven, and my cake turned out pretty uneven, but it looks fine. Not really, but it'll do. Finally, the icing. You're gonna take your icing ingredients, making sure everything is room temperature and you are ready to roll. Start by softening the butter, adding your sour cream or Greek yogurt, your vanilla, and giving that a good mix to make it homogeneous. Then I played the cream cheese by ear. I added about 4 to 5 tablespoons. I would not add any more than that. It was pretty sour. Finally, adding in your salt and your sugar and the rest of your ingredients and making sure to whip that plenty so it's fluffy, and then adding your cruncher sand. This was so delicious. Then you're gonna get your cake out. You can actually get your ring mold. I'm just using a small cheesecake ring. So go ahead and stamp out 2 whole rounds and then 2 halves, or closest to halves as you can. So that way you have 3 complete layers. I never found my acetate, but I did find my food saver bag, so it was close enough. So you take whatever bag or whatever form you can find and make a lining around to build your cake. So you're gonna take your incomplete layers first and trim and cut so however you can so you have a full bottom. And then you're gonna get all your ingredients to assemble your cake. So you have your jam, your icing, your crunchers, your milk soak, and your pretty toppers. For the milk soak, I soaked a apple cider donut in milk for 24 hours. I went ahead and strained it, and you betcha I did taste that milk. It did taste awesome. So another thing I'm annoyed about, but use like a few tablespoons each layer so it stays moist. Then you are going to put down some icing, do a handful of crunchers, and then you're gonna take your jam. My jam she was a loose girl, so I'd kind of just sprinkled her everywhere and hope she didn't ooze out the side. Then you're gonna repeat those layers all the way to the top. Once you get to the top, you're going to want to make sure to use the rest of your icing, spread your icing evenly, and then take your pretty crunchers and make a nice design around. Now, to set my jam more, but also for the cake to set, and look how cute she turned out. Honestly, I thought it looked really good. I did cover it and put it in the freezer for the better part of an hour before serving. Which was perfect timing because it left my kitchen an absolute disaster zone. Like, real bad. But, I asked Guinness to help and she promptly walked away. I mean, I wish I could too, bud.
I don't know if I hit it, but we will see. So right now, the cake is in the freezer. The milk bar cake got here 2 days ago, and so it's thawing in the fridge. And so we're gonna see what happens. Just when I was putting it all together, the only thing I was really concerned about was the jelly. It was quite loose. Now it's a little warm in my house right now, so I'm gonna keep it in the freezer for a while and we will compare. So let's see how I did.
Time for the big show. So I took the milk bar cake out and unwrapped it from its honestly expert wrapping and unveiled this beauty. There was a ton more jam than I thought it was gonna be. Then I unwrapped mine from its cheesecake mold and food saver wrapping, and honestly it looked pretty nice. And I got super excited because they looked really great next to each other. You could see with the milk bar cake, there's a lot more, it just looked professional and it looked really well done. And mine looked really homemade and a lot different, mostly because the brown butter and my jelly was much more of a glaze, but it looked great. Look how the light was hitting it. But yeah, you could definitely tell the stark differences in the icing and the jams, but my God, they looked pretty close and the jam looked beautiful in the sunlight. So when it went to cut, I was really surprised. My sponges really held up.
And especially with the milk bar cake, it was pretty similar. But my toppings obviously were more wet. But the textures in the milk bar cake were lighter and airier and fluffier and a lot more evenly distributed. Interesting. This just goes to show, brown butter makes everything better. Okay, so I'm back. Cakes are back in the freezer now. And this is super interesting to me. I'm just gonna say right off the bat, Christina Tosi obviously gets the technique prize, okay? You can see very obviously that the cake layers are a lot more even and consistent. And you can also see that the icing is whipped, is a lot more consistent, and is lighter in color. Mine is darker in color, again, because I browned the butter, so it just doesn't whip the same way. And my jelly she's loose, okay? I did not use enough pectin in there. So it's more of like a sauce or glaze or something. The flavor of the milk bar apple is a little strange. Like, I'm not gonna lie, I'm having a hard time like pinning it down. It is very apple. It is very like in your face apple. It does not taste like a cider donut. Having just had them and made them, I'm gonna give it a no for that. But it really does have a great like green apple flavor. And I think it's because Christina uses a lot of sour elements in her baking. So with this recipe, there's buttermilk, there's creme fraiche or sour cream. The jam ends up actually being pretty acidic because it's a reduction, right? And because the apple flavor is just right dead in charge, you kind of just associate with green apple. There's not a huge amount of cinnamon, and there's honestly not a lot of like warming spices in general. What is always good is the texture. Like, the crunchers are incredible. I think the fact that she really pioneered that and adding textures back into American cakes like that is amazing. And how she has like the naked edged cakes like that, it just is, it's so aesthetically pleasing. It looks so beautiful and the yield is great. Overall, I am gonna say that my additional use of the additional warming spices and all of the browned butter, I like mine better. And I feel so bad saying that, but I really do. Like, again, this is great apple flavor. The technique is awesome. And this was a really fun recipe, like figuring it out and trying to piece it together and then having to make donuts and then learning things from that, like the reduction and the syrup and the jam and everything like that. It's really truly a celebration of fall and celebration of apple, but I am so sorry, Christina. The brown butter just sets it over the edge and really, really gets it there. But thank you so much for your ingenuity and creativity and for this amazing challenge. I will always continue purchasing from your store and stalking your Instagram for inspiration. It is always an honor, a pleasure, and a challenge doing your recipes. So for everyone else who's not Christina Tosi, this recipe is super fun. It is very challenging and has a lot of steps. But if you're in the mood and you want to recreate it, the recipe is down below. Enjoy this fall and let me know what you guys want to see next. I am gonna need something like a little easier after this. I'm tired. A girl's tired. Whew.